Damn, you look good. You look good. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Here, I even have a.
Turn mine up a little bit here. Boy, did Sean come in and knock one out of the park right off the bat, or what?
We teed it up for him.
Yeah, well, we did, true, but he was still a rookie coming up from AAA ball, and we pinch hit him, and he hit a grand slammer.
Well, no, he came out of retirement.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
He wasn't a rookie.
Vince Carter coming off the bench.
Yeah, there you go.
No doubt.
Hey, John.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Good. Hi, John.
Hey, Paul.
How you doing?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Cool.
Hey guys, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Hey, Sean.
Oh, good, John. I was just sending you the link. I'm glad you made it.
Yeah, I found it. Thanks.
So we have 5 attendees.
Hey guys, real quick, I just sent an email out. Steve, since you're the moderator on this,
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing like massive feedback from myself. I'm not sure why. But anyways, Allison Lehman just sent me an email. Just let us know that Ryan's on. She can't make it. And she just wanted to ensure that we were going to follow the ground rules we set. You know, let's keep it cordial, respectful. He's just a messenger. They're a huge asset to us. County.
What did she expect us to beat down on him or something? Or is he coming in now? Is that him? Must be him. I'll bet that's him there.
I think she kind of understands that this is a contentious issue. People are upset. They want to golf, and she just doesn't want us beating up her director of health.
Hey guys.
Dave.
We have a caller coming in. Is that Pat? Pat usually calls in.
No, that would be Mr. Bartz.
Oh, that's Ron. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, Ron, that's right. Yeah, I would go in on computer, but, you know, sometimes when people see my face, they get a different reaction.
All right, I renamed you, so we know who you are.
Okay, that's Steve.
Otherwise, it was just a phone. Yeah, it's Steve.
Okay. Boy, people are chomping at the bit, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
That's quite a background there, Steve.
Been working hard at it. I had to get all those things set on the wall just right, you know.
Yeah.
I tried to do a background, but I never could get it to work.
It depends on you, how powerful your computer is. Zoom will.
I don't have the capability of green screen, I think is something they said.
No, you can do a virtual background on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
That's what this is.
Is that Ray?
Hey, Ryan.
Hi.
How you doing? Welcome.
I'm doing okay. Thank you for having me.
Ryan's last name?
Groover.
Groover.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today, Ryan. I know Allison tried to make it, couldn't make it, so I appreciate that you made it.
Until a few minutes ago, at least, there was still a Board of Supervisors meeting going, and that could still be going on. So that's where Allison has been. And I apologize, my internet connection has been touch and go today, so if I cut out, I'll try to rejoin. So just warning you that could happen.
Ryan, did you receive the questions that we're going to be asking?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Ron, this is your meeting officially as the chair, right?
I am, that's correct.
You got 1 minute to go.
1 minute and I'm taking over.
Yeah, so we have 9 panelists at the moment. You can see them all on the screen, and 6 attendees at the moment.
Kathy will not be attending.
Is Joe Slane showing up?
Joe is not on yet.
I'll text him.
He's really not an important figure in this matter.
Pat usually phones in.
Okay, and so
And we are recording, so
very good.
just in case.
Well,
anybody wants-
we have a quorum, correct? 1, 2, 3
We do not.
board meeting. What about Janet or Jeanette or Lauren? Are they around?
I'm sure they got the invite.
Yeah, correct.
Lauren's last email said, see you at 3 or something like that,
Okay, we need a quorum to get going though.
which is what, 4?
Yeah, I guess we do have 4, don't we? Assuming you count me.
No,
Okay.
where's 4?
You've got Steve, Ron, Steve, and
3.
that's it, huh? 3. Okay, then we have to wait. Ryan, you saw the agenda we're dealing with also, I hope? Ryan muted himself.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yes, I have it. I don't have it in front of me, so.
That's okay. I just so I'll introduce you and Sean. John won't be here, right, Sean?
No, I'm on.
John's there.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Yep.
And
Hi.
after I introduce everybody, then we'll go right to you, Ryan, so we can move forward, and you can jump off after that. Okay, and we just need one more person. I
There's
don't know.
Jeanette.
Yay, Jeanette.
Of course, Lauren takes the minutes, but you're recording it, so that works.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Jeanette.
Hi, finally, I'm zooming. I've been working on it for 5 minutes. I don't know what I missed.
No problem.
We didn't
No, not missed in the meeting, missed in terms of my own figuring out Zoom thing.
Yeah, Lauren and Pat here. But now we have a quorum, right?
Yeah, we do. So we'll go ahead and start. Okay, welcome to this meeting of the Lake of the Pines Golf Committee. And all guests are welcome. We're missing a couple of committee members, but we have our liaison, Paul Brown, both General Manager John Bowman and Interim General Manager Sean Botello, and Ronald Bartz as our Brightview representative for the golf course. Our special guest today from Nevada County Executive Offices is Ryan Ruver, and we welcome him. We have changed the format of our meeting today. We are certainly allowing public comments and questions, but we are putting them toward the end of the meeting. We feel that after Ryan speaks and answers the questions we have forwarded in advance to him, as well as we hear from both John and Sean, that likely most of those questions and comments you have will be covered. We also will be discussing, per our agenda, several topics, I think 7 subject matters that will also probably answer or deal with the questions you'll have. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Sean. You want to introduce Ryan?
Sure. I've just met him for the first time, but Allison Lehman, the county executive officer, we were speaking to a few times last week, was going to try and make this, but she had a board of supervisors meeting. So she offered to have Ryan attend, and Ryan probably knows more about this than anybody. He's the health director, I believe, for Nevada County. So we'll just go ahead and let Ryan.
Okay,
Yeah,
Ryan.
I'll go ahead and introduce myself, and then I don't know if you're going to ask me these questions or you want me to just dive in. But yeah, Allison sends her regrets. She is in the midst of a Board of Supervisors meeting right now. I'm Nevada County's Health and Human Services Agency Director. So our agency includes a number of departments, including public health. The public health officer who plays a very key role in a public health emergency such as this is Dr. Ken Cutler. He's not able to be here today either, but just to clarify, I'm not the director of health. I'm the director of the agency that oversees the health department. So I'm definitely at the table and I'm prepared to speak to your questions. So I don't know if you want to dive in.
I'll go ahead and read the questions so that those listening in can understand what we're asking. We formulated our questions prior to Nevada County opening up the golf course, proving that we could open up the golf course. And so they were rewritten so that they appeared to be current. So let's just run through them, starting with Lake of the Pines is a private gated community with proposed protocols that are stricter than all other golf courses, both in Nevada County and Placer County. Wouldn't it have made sense from a public health perspective to allow our residents to use our private course in their personal carts and in their personal carts rather than encouraging them to travel outside Nevada County to Placer County courses, mingle with other golfers from all over the area, and then return to Lake of the Pines in Nevada County?
So first of all, I want to commend the proposed protocols that you have in place that you referenced in that question. And it's that kind of feedback and that kind of information that really allowed us to amend the order to allow for the opening of the golf course. So I need to underscore that we are under a state shelter-in-place order, as many of you are probably aware. And our first and top priority as a local health department is to protect public health. We never recommended people travel to other jurisdictions to golf. And in fact, there was concern at the beginning when Placer County did have their golf courses closed that people were going to be coming into our jurisdiction to participate in activities that they perceived were available here. So. With that said, I think it's fair to say that we didn't fully anticipate the issues around golf, nor are we necessarily the experts in how golf specifically can be played safely in accordance with all the social distance guidelines and things like that. As I referenced, Placer initially, along with many other jurisdictions, had golf courses closed and then switched. Many jurisdictions continue to have golf courses closed. We listened to the feedback. We heard from the community around outdoor physical activity generally and how it can be practiced safely. And so I'm pleased that we were able to come up with a way that our public health officer could be comfortable with allowing golf to proceed in a way that recognizes the work that you and other communities have done to identify safeguards to allow that activity to commence, because we recognize, in the state's order recognized from the beginning, that physical activity and continuing to go outdoors and get exercise remains a necessary and vital thing for people.
Okay, thank you. Second question is, why has Alta Sierra, which is a public course, been allowed to remain open while Lake of the Pines, a private course, must remain closed? How penalties were enforced, and if Alta Sierra or any other course chooses to remain open when Nevada County restricts such activities now or in the future, what penalties are imposed and how are they enforced?
So something I just want to put out there, there has been some inaccurate information out there in terms of certain golf courses being allowed to operate while other golf courses were not allowed to operate. And frankly, we're hearing from all the golf courses, each pointing to the other golf courses saying that the other one is allowed to operate, but we're not. So they were never told that they could operate. So that changed yesterday, of course, with the update to the local health order allowing opening. So that doesn't mean open for business as usual. We have no authority to allow non-essential businesses, but we can. But so something I'll say is that this is the first time that anybody's in modern times had to enforce public health officer orders at the scale of this pandemic, and so enforcement has been definitely a work in progress. We now have implemented a process. There's an ability to go out onto the county's website and submit issues. Previously, people were emailing complaints to email inboxes across the county or calling various phone numbers. So we've, through our code compliance division, working closely with local law enforcement, put in process a place where people can go and they can indicate, well, golf course X is having people go into their pro shop. This trailhead has people congregating. This non-essential business is operating. So we've recently put in place a process to allow for that kind of centralized complaint process, and we have an escalating series of enforcement steps. And our goal, as was outlined by the governor at the outset of this, and as we continue to emphasize, is education and outreach first, and then there's a series of escalating steps after that that could result ultimately in citation and possible incarceration should people actively flout. But our goal is to absolutely obtain voluntary compliance when there are issues by education and through education and outreach. We definitely don't want to put our law enforcement officers in a position of having to go out and close down golf courses or enforce in any way if there's an option to educate people first. So we have a process in place now. I'm definitely not going to get into individual what penalties or what enforcement was used against an individual organization or specific people, but we do have a process in place now, but it has been an evolution and a work in progress.
Okay, so this next question is a lot falls in line with this, so it may be repetitive in a way. Why has Nevada County chosen to keep golf courses closed while Placer County and the Sacramento region have chosen to remain open and active? We understand that the virus does not respect county lines, and residents often cross county lines for work and recreation. Most government agencies have tried to coordinate their restrictions with those of the neighboring jurisdictions. How has Nevada County dealt with this issue, and how can we expect Nevada County to deal with future like instances?
So ultimately, each health officer is charged with issuing orders and directives and guidance at the local level. Their top consideration is public health, and they often make independent judgments based on a number of factors. With that said, they definitely try to develop a consensus. We do have a regional cohort of public health officers that includes the greater Sacramento region. It includes Placer. It also includes neighbors in El Dorado and Yuba and Sutter. And they definitely work with each other, try to gain from each other's experience and knowledge, recognizing that although they're medical doctors and they have a lot of expertise in the public health sphere, they don't know everything. They haven't anticipated every situation that's out there. And so they definitely do try to work together. As I've pointed out, at first Placer County's courses were closed, then they decided to open under the auspices of outdoor physical activity. And once we were satisfied and our health officer was satisfied that that could be safely done here, we followed suit.
Okay. Another question. We want to be certain we understand both current requirements and restrictions as well as potential future needs. We would like to better understand what process Nevada County goes through in making the determination to close golf courses. What is the process? Is this a blanket one-size-fits-all decision? What is the notification process?
So first of all, in order to stay abreast of current requirements and restrictions, I would recommend that people become familiar, if they're not already familiar, with mynevadacounty.com/coronavirus. That's our centralized location for information on guidelines and various other pieces of information. We have a dashboard out there that represents cases. It has links to guidance on various things, links to the orders, as well as access to resources and state and federal, the CDC and CDPH, Centers for Disease Control and California Department of Public Health websites as well, which also have guidance. So in terms of information, that's one source. Calling 211, we've set 211 up as a call center, and we're actively monitoring the types of calls that are going into 211 so that as questions come in that they don't have the answers to, we can provide them those answers and get that information back to people who call. In terms of the decision-making process and how that works, so Allison, you mentioned Allison Lehman, the CEO at the beginning. She's the county executive officer appointed by the board and has broad authority over the county structure. I'm the Health and Human Services Agency Director with authority over my agency. And then we have a public health director over public health. But in a situation like this, the public health officer is carved out in law as a position of unique authority outside of that typical structure. So it ultimately, the buck stops with our public health officer on the local health orders. And the health officer makes decisions based on a combination of the data and science coming out of the Centers for Disease Control and California Department of Public Health, as well as the situation on the ground in Nevada County. That information helps inform local decisions on guidance and directives, but there's a similar structure at the state with a state health officer who can make those blanket directives at the state level. And as I said at the outset, we are under a state public health order at this time. And so what our health officer can do is clarify things and implement orders and directives that are more restrictive than the state, but we can't be less restrictive than the state. And recreation was one of the few areas that was that there was some more specificity in our order than there was at the state level. And so yesterday we adapted that. And so now there's very little that's in our state or our local order that's more specific than what's in the governor's stay-at-home order.
Yeah, go ahead.
So at the time that the initial decision on golf was made, we were in a situation of rapidly increasing cases. A lot of jurisdictions that we're coordinating with were not allowing golf. To answer the question of does it need to be blanket or one size fits all, there's no obligation that the health officer does a blanket decision but that level of granularity, like he can't anticipate every situation and every different flavor of a given issue. So just as a guidepost in terms of how the public health officer can practically issue an order, there's only so much that can be contained in that order on a practical level. But I will say we listened and learned from the community and our counterparts, and Dr. Cutler was able to issue a new order. We do send media releases when those orders are updated, but again, if you're not reading the Union or going to UBANet, then the best way is to go to that website, mynevadacounty.com/coronavirus, and we post updates there very regularly.
Okay. And what is Nevada County's outlook on relaxing restrictions? And once we're in this, you've allowed us to open up now, what's the next step?
So, first of all, as I just stated, we're not able to relax the governor's stay-at-home order. I don't know, I assume some of your viewers at least were able to watch the governor's press conference today. The governor today announced a roadmap to reopening that envisions 4 phases. We're in the first phase, which is the strict stay-at-home orders. So without our ability, we don't have the ability to advance that other than laying the groundwork at the local level so that we're positioned and able to respond quickly when the state order does begin being modified. And we are definitely actively working on that. The governor has outlined 6 criteria for reopening. One of them involves testing and the ability to identify new cases And so we advocated and we were awarded one of the state-run testing sites. And so Nevada County will have a capacity to do testing and be able to hit the ground running on that criterion. Another criteria involves having safeguards and practices in place to ensure that local businesses can operate safely. And so we're forming a task force to solicit that input. As I've stated with golf, we're not necessarily the experts in how golf can be safely practiced, nor are we necessarily the experts in how a bookstore can operate curbside pickup. And so we need a mechanism to be able to obtain that information and formulate the guidelines that will allow us to satisfy the state's conditions so that we're not left behind when those restrictions begin being modified and released. The governor indicated that the move to phase 2, which would be lower risk businesses starting to open up, would be a matter of weeks, not months, but that some of those future phases where you go back to normalcy with things like concerts being allowable is probably a matter of months, not weeks. Yeah, so that's what we're doing. We're trying to lay the groundwork and position ourselves so that we can return to normalcy as quickly as safely possible once the state starts releasing their restrictions.
How will Nevada County follow through on or enforce the current opening of the courses? Will there be somebody that comes out and occasionally will monitor what is happening at the course and if they're following all the protocols?
So currently the enforcement process is complaint driven, as many enforcement processes are. I will say that especially at the outset when these orders were issued, we were receiving a lot of complaints about certain golf courses, having people congregate, utilizing pro shops, sharing golf carts and things of that nature. And so one of the key ways that enforcement gets engaged is if somebody submits a complaint through that hotline. And again, we would start with education and outreach, and the more work that you're able to put in to make sure that you have those protocols and safeguards that you mentioned at the outset of your first question, the easier that conversation is going to be. But our goal would be to support you in being able to do what's allowable under this order in the way that's safe as possible. So if you reach out to us and request assistance in how should we be handling this situation, that's something we can certainly help with. And even if somebody were to submit a complaint, our first step would be to try to provide education and outreach.
Okay, thank you. And I have a final question is, how does Nevada County determine golf cart usage and rental usage? This is a revenue issue for Lake of the Pines. Most of our annual golfers own their own carts, but we do have others in this private gated community who do not have carts. We also are requiring a single golfer per cart. We would like better clarification as to why we can't use our own fleet of rental carts to allow compliance with one person per cart.
Yeah, so we have to be clear, and I know this is a nuance that may be hard to communicate, but we have to be clear that golf is being allowed as an outdoor physical activity. We're not saying that golf as a business is an essential business. The governor has laid out what's an essential business and what's not. And we are not empowered locally to, as I've said, modify the governor's stay-at-home order. So members of the community, including Lake of the Pines, made comments to the effect of, I can go for a walk with a walking stick, but as soon as I hit a ball with that stick, it's not allowed. And we heard those types of comments, and but we have to be clear that that physical activity may be allowed, but that doesn't say that you can necessarily operate a business associated with it. And so we can't condone something that's not in line with the state's health order.
Okay, very good. A call on any of our committee members or our liaison or Sean or John, any questions you might have, clarifications? No.
So just to comment on the cart restriction, is there under any situation where we can clean them?
I mean, I think you can clean the carts. There are certain, if businesses can be conducted remotely and there's some way for people to access the carts and not be like coming into a shop, and I don't know, it would be hard to anticipate every possible scenario in terms of how that might operate, but that's something that we could certainly provide some guidance on if that was an essential thing to be able to allow access to this physical activity. If it's strictly the revenue question, that might be more difficult if it gets into the area of I'm
Okay.
sorry, there's some interference there.
It's, yeah.
Did I answer that? Sorry.
I just saw, yeah, I think so. Is that okay, Steve?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Ron, if I could ask a question.
There's a message here, question that I think we should throw before you, and that is households sharing carts. In other words, husband and wife, or son or daughter riding with a parent playing golf. Is that acceptable to the county?
Yeah, and I would encourage people to go out and look at the order, but we've specifically called out that these group activities, like basketball is one example of that. If you're playing basketball with people in your household, you're already in touch with those people. So there's not really a risk of additional spread beyond what's possibly already happening within your household. So the same thing would apply to golf courts. We're not saying that people can't go on a walk with their family members or ride in a car or a cart with their family members, but it's when people are not in that immediate and stable family group that there's a risk of transmission associated with that activity.
Excellent. Good. Any other questions? Anybody?
I would just comment, I don't think that's very apparent in the document we read. It seems to say no sharing, no two people to a cart. Doesn't make any, I didn't see any provision about same household. So just would point that out. It seemed to be pretty black and white that it's your cart and yours only, and that's all you can do with it. It would also seem to have suggested, I think it said point blank, no cart rentals. So at least that's what I thought I read in it. So.
Yeah.
I could certainly follow up. I'll have to, I don't have the order in front of me, so.
Yep. And the reason I bring that up in part is we do fortunately have the luxury of most people own their own carts, but when you talk about most of these other courses, by and large, they don't. So I'd be very curious as to whether they're going to be able to operate in renting out carts or not. So.
I think it's important to recognize the spirit of this, and definitely the idea is that people who are not already exposed to each other aren't sharing those facilities and sharing those carts. And so I will say to you now that a family member sharing a cart is okay. Just like initially there was some guidance on fishing that was revised to say you can fish, like a father and son, mother and son can go fishing. You don't, you live in the same household. You're already sharing each other's germs. So the spirit of this is that if you're in the same household, you don't have to stay socially distanced. We're not telling people that they have to stand 6 feet away from their 4-year-old when they go on a walk. So.
Okay, very good. I think I feel good about your responses, Ryan. Thank you for your presence with us, and I assume that we'll have an open line with you, even probably through Sean, should we have additional questions that pop up or amongst our community. We have a problem, we'll let you know. We thank you very much. So.
Sure, and I'll send you a link to that resource I mentioned where you can report complaints. You can also submit questions through that. And if you have things that need clarification, one thing we can do is put them out there in our frequently asked questions so that you have something you can point to that this is okay to do versus that's not. So
great.
So we didn't ask Ryan the most important question. Ryan, are you a golfer? Would you like to come play golf?
Golfed twice and it was not a pretty thing.
Okay. Well, thank you very much again for your time and participation and answering the questions. And we look forward to playing tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have fun and stay safe out there.
Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to move right along then on this meeting. And as I mentioned to the guests that are present and listening, you'll have an opportunity to ask questions. That one about the household sharing of carts came up through someone typed in a question, and I thought that'd be appropriate to bring up now, so we did. So as we cover certain subject matters, if you want to type in a question and we feel it's appropriate, we will respond to it immediately. Otherwise, at the end of the meeting, we will give you ample time for venting. Okay, so here we are. We have, I'm looking for acceptance of minutes. I have the minutes from March the 24th meeting, which was a regularly scheduled meeting. And we have the minutes from April the 21st, which was a special meeting we had last week. I'd like to ask for a motion and a second and acceptance.
I so move.
Moved
Janetta
and-
did.
Okay, and seconded by Steve Rosenblum. And any objection? Both, are we going both of them at the same time? I don't have a problem with that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Very good. That's done. Thank you. See, Ron Bartz was worried about the time. Look how quickly we're moving. Okay. So now we're looking at golf course operations. General Manager John Bowman, interim manager Sean Bethelio, Pat Shaw. Did Pat ever show up? No. And Ron Bartz is here as well. So I walked the course today. It looked like in excellent condition without any chip marks or any problems for obvious reasons. John, would you like to start with anything?
I'll defer to Sean primarily, but if you have any questions of me, I'm here to answer.
I think we will toward the end if
Sure.
if Sean can't answer them. Okay, Sean, hi.
Hi, guys.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what my role is, what part you want from me, but I'll just give a couple things there. I did walk the course or drove the course with Ron this morning, and he won't tell you, but his guys are kicking butt out there, and it looks great. One thing we're going to do tomorrow that we haven't done in the past is we're trying to get our people back to work, so we're going to put a beer cart on the golf course. So we hope the word, let the people know we can get a food and beverage person back to work, and if it's successful, we might try and do this until we can get the sports lounge bar open. So we don't know how we're going to do the collecting of money. We think we may do is just collect your lot number, phone number, and settle up later via credit card. That way we're not changing money out there. But she will be driving the course with a couple coolers full of beer. So
excellent.
if you can, please send the word out to the MGC and all the other folks and let them know so that they could participate in that. One of the other issues we're going to have in a couple of days are the restrooms. The restrooms are due to be renovated in the next few days. So we're trying to get a handle on exactly what day they're going to do it. But they do want to take them all down at the same time, and we push back and say you can't do that. Take down half and half, but we'll let you know as we get more word on that. And that's all I have.
Okay, hang in there. We'll check with you later. And Ron Bartz.
So, excuse me a minute, Sean, you said you're going to send the beer cart out tomorrow. Do you mean beginning tomorrow and continuing?
Well, we're going to send it out at least tomorrow, and we're going to see how long we can do it. If there's anything going, if they're selling some beers, then they may extend it. But for right now, they're just going to go out before tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay, Ron Bartz.
Yeah, Ron, I need your lot number.
1 through 2,000.
Yeah, or I could use lot. They always tell me to use lot 1, so that'll work. No, we're very excited that the golf course is reopening. We were out blowing fairways today because we have a nice problem that we have too much grass. I enjoyed riding the course with Sean very much today. We talked about some issues, and he knows about things that I wasn't aware of, and so that's nice. We had a good conversation, talked about some of the upcoming construction, but we're ready. The only thing we're going to do is we'll put the cups, they'll be about a 3/4 of an inch below the surface so that the ball can literally go in, but then you can tap it out with your putter. We have, brand new flags going out. We will not put rakes out until we are told to do that. All the ball washers will remain covered up until we are instructed to uncover those. But we're excited to have golfers again.
Great, thank you.
I have a question. Ron, have you thought about the sand, sand with seed in it for filling divots? Is that Just, we're not going to be doing that, I'm assuming.
Well, that's a great question because of the scoop. We will try and handle that as much as possible until we're allowed to. Yeah, because we couldn't even use a shake can. If anyone has an idea about that, let me know. But we will hit the par threes pretty hard every day.
What about, this is just off the top of my head, but what about the provisions on number 1 where there's that large container of sand, and then maybe just individual plastic cups that you could take a plastic cup and fill your container, or maybe you can scoop your container and then just throw away the plastic cup. Maybe an idea.
Yeah, or maybe the people could even take their own personal little thing down, and we will try and fill our divot buckets completely to the top tomorrow. And there's that big trash can on 1. Maybe we will try and put a big trash can out on number 9, and then people can refill their sand buckets as needed.
Yeah, and that's good. And I've seen a couple of people recommending using their own scoops that they have in their cart anyway. You just screw off the cap and scoop so there's no real contact there. So I think that can work.
Yeah.
If the
we'll try and put a trash can out there close to the on the concrete out there, close to where you make the turn there on 9 before you tee off by the snack shack there.
Okay. Sounds
you
good.
could outfit the beverage cart with some sand, and we could pay them $1 a divot.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, thank you, Ron. You have anything else?
3 for $1. I don't know.
You probably
Anything
want
else from you,
something
Ron?
that doesn't have a top on as much as possible, because it's no big to scoop out of that thing on the first hole, but lifting and closing a lid, in theory, that's something you don't want to be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll and it's not calling for, we have little or no rain in the forecast, maybe a little on Sunday, but we can put a trash can with no lid.
Yeah, that'd be ideal.
Okay. Anything else for Ron? Anybody?
Yeah, Lauren, I have something.
Lauren came. Shut up. Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't log in. I had to do an alternate method here. For Ron, on the cart paths, the markings for 150 that are worn off, the red, the yellow, the wording, especially on the 4th, coming up onto the 4th, from the tee to the green, anywhere along the cart path, actually the entire length of the course. Can those be repainted and updated, because they've faded off? You can't see them.
Sean and I talked about that today, and Sean is, I'll defer to Sean. If we cannot find anything else, yes, we will paint them. The issue with paint is that after a couple months, it's gone. But Sean and I talked about an idea today, so I'll defer to Sean.
Okay, Sean.
Yeah, we looked at a couple of different options on that. We looked at our paint sprayers, looked by doing it by hand. So as Ron says, it does wear off. So we're going to look at the possibility of using it like a thermoplastic out there. Don't know if it's possible. Don't know if anybody's doing it, but we'll look into it and see if we can do something like that. And we'll look into it in the next couple of days.
Okay. That was one of the discussion items. So that's taken care of. Thank you.
Hey, just a thought there, Sean. When you guys, it probably can't happen now, but we have these guys doing road work out here and painting the roads with probably something more durable than we use. So might be an idea to bat around that next time we have an opportunity to schedule them, can they get out there and do that too? They probably have better equipment and better, supplies that we'd be putting down. So something to think about.
Ron,
well, you nailed it, Joe. That's exactly what we're doing.
Okay.
These guys use a thermoplastic on the streets, and they haven't striped yet. We have another week or so until they stripe. So that was a thought. But the only colors they have right now would be white and yellow, because that's what they're doing with the streets. So we'd have to look at the blue and the red. But that is the first thing we thought of this morning when Ron and I were talking is could we do the same thing as the streets?
Good. Okay. Paul Brown, you have anything for us? Paul Brown left. Rick Fowler, you have anything for us?
He's muted.
Can you hear me, Ron?
I hear you.
Sean, as far as the thermal tape, they make a thermal tape that you can put down. You spray an adhesive and then it's a thermal tape that goes on. That might be an option. And you can probably order it in various colors.
Okay, we'll leave that to you guys to work out. Thank you.
I don't really have anything else other than to say thank you to everybody for working on this. I know Sean and John put quite a bit of time into this, and at this point, the county is very happy with us, and they're very grateful for us approaching them. I think the letter Sean sent is what helped get golf open, not just for Lake of the Pines, but for the whole county. So thanks, everybody.
Great. Don't go away, Rick. Matter of fact, let's tackle this one thing right now. I'm going to jump down. I didn't hear Paul Brown, so I'm assuming he doesn't need to say anything. I'm looking at things like, well, the bid deadline, course improvement bid deadline. I know that bids have come in, or at least I believe bids have come in. Have they not? Yes.
Sean would know. I have not seen any
Oh,
yet.
Sean. Sean, have you received any bids at all? You could just say yes or
I
no.
personally have not. John Bowman may know more about that than I, but I have not gotten into that yet.
Huh.
Yeah,
John,
they were starting to come in last Friday, and we'll have a report from Forrest by first thing next week, a summary of them.
So therefore, my understanding would be that we're still on track for the presentation of bids or whatever, however the process works. Maybe you could explain it to us, so that it goes before the board and bid is accepted, we hope, and then we know that we have accomplished our first phase of renovation.
Yeah, so May 13th, I think, is the board meeting, and that's when the board would have the first chance to deal with it. Hopefully before then, we'll be able to work out the pricing and kind of decide what we can afford to do this year.
Okay, very good. And I assume we'd be apprised of that information at the proper time.
I'm certain you will. Yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you. Does anybody on the committee have anything regarding that they want to question, or that they don't feel is clear regarding course improvement bid deadline, council action item, anything there, or we feel good about it?
Well, John, when you say we'll be apprised of that, does that mean you're going to send us copies of the bids, or you're going to summarize them in some way and send them to the golf committee members, or what does that mean?
Well, it kind of depends on when it comes in. My last full day is this Friday. So if we have his report by then, I'd discuss it with Rick, and if he's okay with us sharing it with the committee, we'd share it with the committee at that point. What Forrest will do is he'll take the bids and he'll compare them for us and make his recommendation, but we'll see all the bids.
Okay. And by the way, John, because Friday's your last day, you still have now 3 days of free golf.
But I got to walk. So.
Okay. All right. Moving right along then. So did Paul Brown ever come back?
I'm back.
Oh, do you have anything for us? Or do you feel?
I want to just mirror what Rick said about how hard people have worked. John Bowman, I appreciate what you've done for the golf course. And Sean coming in with Nevada County was really a save. And we appreciate Sean coming in and hitting the ball out of the park right out of the dugout. So all of you work really hard. I think my role has been basically to be the guy that everybody beat down on for 2 weeks while the course was closed, but really didn't bother me all that much. Everybody was suffering, and I'm glad to see that the course is now open.
Good. Okay, thank you. Then we'll jump right into the signage. And Lauren, you would be able to share with Pat Shaw, and you got together today. Are we all set with the signage?
Yeah, we worked out some signs. I believe he's probably out putting those on the course as we speak, my last email with him. He's got everything he needs. He's got a document for the marshal that's very clear and detailed. I think Sean, he's been running it by you, so I think he's got concurrence management. And, as far as I know, it looks pretty good. We'll know tomorrow.
Okay, and they'll, as far as you understand, Pat will be having marshaling done pretty proactively.
Yes, he was going to increase, currently does it 6 to 8 times. He's going to have to increase that. And like I said, he's got a document that, a 2-page document or front and back document that outlines course compliance for golfers, kind of like everything we spoke to in the April 21st meeting. And then on the flip side, it's information for walking program, outlines times and dates, the times, and other compliance issues for them and clarification. I think it looks pretty good. We'll see. It's the best we can do right now.
Okay, thank you.
I have a couple of comments related to this. First is, Lauren, the work that you guys did on these signs, the signs are really, really, really well done. Thank you so much for all the time you put into this. The second thing I'd like to make a comment about regarding marshalling, and maybe it's coming later in this agenda. There are so many things, but maybe not. If it is, just say it's later. I think that an e-blast needs to be going out to the entire community today, not just saying that golfing is going to start, but what's going to stop, and how is all this, going to play out? I just got back and I haven't looked at all my emails, but if that hasn't been sent, I think it needs to be.
If I can speak to that, I worked with Jacqueline this morning and talked with Sean. There is several emails going out this afternoon.
Okay, thank you.
And that email went out at 3:05, so you should have received it by now.
Okay, I've been paying attention to this and not that.
Okay, great, thank you. There were questions about bicycles, scooters, etc. on the cart path. Pat Shaw brought to my attention that it does state that bicycle and scooters are allowed, and I wasn't aware of that. I guess we'll have to research that a little further and just determine what the proper way to deal with that is. Certainly during golf hours, that's no longer a problem because they won't be allowed. And for those of you listening and you're concerned you want to play golf but you don't have a blue sticker, white stickers are accepted on the golf course during this period of time, but you must in advance pay $13 additional per play. So be sure you do that or you'll be tagged or someone will find you, because we will have marshals going out for the many purposes, but that would be one of them. So at this point, we're gonna go along with that. Also, speaking of stickers, the blue sticker is good for another month. Normally it would only be good until Friday, but the administration board has said that it's good for another month, so there's no concern there. Is my understanding also that the annual range ball pass is good for another month as well. Anybody speak to that?
Range is closed though, right?
The range is closed, correct. But
So,
people,
so what's that
well,
mean?
it may be open. I mean, they may open it. I don't know. It's better to have the answer ahead of time, don't you think?
So let me speak to that for just a second. On the agenda tomorrow is a recommendation for the board to consider refunding amenity fees that people lost out on. And whether golf will be one of those or not, I don't know, because we were actually closed less than 30 days. But certainly the range would be one of those that I think should be considered because it's been closed longer. And there's some other related fees. So the board will be looking at that. They'll have an opportunity to direct staff on how to handle those.
Okay. Let's talk about range balls. That seems to be one of the biggest concerns after we've opened up now. And yes, I know the range is not open at this time, but it's a good time to ferret this out and clarify it. And John, you're aware of this, especially with Dave. Dave sent you a letter. Let's see. Yeah, Dave Medlicott, I guess that's how you say it. There. So I could read his letter, or we can, if he's on, we can have him speak to it. But I just want to find out: is there any discussion or further action, or is this something that has to go before the board again regarding this program? Now, this was amongst the 23 items or 26 items that we placed in and recommended ways of increasing or improving revenues. And now, as I read his letter that he sent to you, it does sound pretty outrageous as far as the difference in costs. So can you speak to that?
Well, you got to hit a lot of balls before it gets outrageous, but you're right. It's if you hit a lot of balls, your costs are going up under the program that we've got. That, as you said, Ron, that started from encouragement from the golf committee as we looked at revenue enhancements. And one of the problems we've been having with the range is that we give out a lot of tokens, and not everybody has annuals. So so we believe we're losing revenue that way. It's not easy to monitor when you give somebody a few tokens who's going to hit those balls. If you have to pay for them by the token, that's a little different. But when you pay for unlimited golf balls and you're either taking care of your foursome or even your whole family, that's not the intent. So we came up with this scenario. We modeled it after courses in our area, and we brought it to the golf committee. Golf committee didn't have a knee-jerk reaction against it, but we had some people saying, let's get higher limits. So we raised it up. Now I think you can buy eight cards for, I don't know, $300 or something. I don't have it in front of me. It drives the price down to about I don't have the numbers, $1.70 per bucket or something like that. It's depending on how many buckets you're hitting under your annual, it may still be way more than you were paying. So if the golf committee has a good recommendation to the board and the board likes that and directs that back to management, I think that's the direction this has got to go at this point. I think Pat and myself did what we could to get the ball to this point. So.
Okay. So those of you on the committee who aren't yet familiar with this, I'm just going to read this one section in the letter that was sent to John by Dave Medlicott, and it says, well, I'll read two paragraphs. It says, I am sending this email on behalf of a group of names listed above, and there's about 20 names, most of whom have annual range ball users or annual. We all agree that the new punch card prices are beyond ridiculous and represent a rate increase far above anything remotely normal or fair. Let me just do some math, he says. If I hit a large bucket 4 times a week for 40 weeks last year, that would be 3 tokens times 4 days per week times 40 weeks, which would be 480 tokens. Divide that by 20 tokens per punch card, and that gives 24 punch cards at $300 for 8 punch cards. I'd be paying $900 for something that last year cost me only $190. This is just an outrageous increase. We need to discuss this. So he makes a couple of recommendations on here. I won't belabor it at this time. As Joe points out, the range is closed right now, so we will have some time to deal with this. I would put it on the agenda for next meeting. and we can all be clarified on this, and I will send out a copy of the letter to each committee member. Would that be fair, you think?
So do you want to take any discussion at this point, or you just want to?
Yeah, actually, let's see. We're on the agenda and the discussion items. We actually have covered everything. John, we spoke to the annual prorated discount rebated type concept, and he did say that we've only been closed. Actually, if you don't count the week of that we were normally closed anyway, for course renovation, punching, etc., then we're really only talking about 2.5, 3 weeks that we're closed, and that falls under a area where it's debatable, but I don't personally have a problem with it unless somebody wants to speak up to it.
I do. So I'd say err on the side of the golfers. This announcement's been very poorly handled. We're not going to get all the answers that we wanted at some point. We want to generate business. You got a lot of people, and you're probably going to hear it when you open it up for discussion, that have a bad taste in their mouth. And so if it's suddenly okay to be closed for 2-3 weeks, we understand pandemic and all that kind of stuff. But if it's okay to be closed and say, sorry, you got denied, you'd think people are going to come back and look for annuals next year? I seriously doubt it. So I would say err on the side of giving those that were entitled to those things that didn't get it, give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I agree with that, Joe, and thus my recommendation to the board.
Okay, so just so before we open it up, and so I understand it, John and Sean would be saying, I assume, the same thing, and that is that you would rebate it, or most likely that would probably be the easiest way to do it as opposed to prorating it or something.
Right.
Yeah.
We would write a check back for whatever amount of time was lost for that amenity. There's got to be a minimum before it starts to make sense. I mean, tennis was closed 4 weeks, and I think, what's the tennis annual? $100 a year or something. So we're going to send everybody $8. We might, I don't know. But you've got the golf cart fees, your golf cart annual, you've got your annual golfing, you've got your range. At least those three ought to be considered.
Well, rather than writing a check, would it not make sense, certainly if someone is encouraged to renew their annual or renew their cart fee, that you would just discount that fee by the amount of the check you would issue?
It's possible we could do it that way. Accounting felt it'd be easier just to send out checks, get it all done at one fell swoop. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to open it up.
Hey, Ron?
Yes.
Can I just make a couple of comments on this annual range ball pass?
Absolutely. And then we can invite your friend too.
Yeah. So we have approximately 40 annual, what happened? Oh, we have about I don't know what happened there. We have approximately 40 annual range pass members, or had, generating somewhere in the neighborhood of $7,000 worth of prepaid revenue, which probably goes to cover the overhead for having the range. I've heard from a number of these guys who have these range passes, and a number of them have actually suggested that if they can't have a true unlimited range ball program like we had before, that they were talking about maybe not renewing their annuals. Well, I don't, in a situation we have now where we're desperate for revenue, I don't think giving up annual members is a real good idea. As far as having to hit a lot of range balls for this to be a price increase, I probably play 3 times a week. I hit a bucket of balls before I play. If I hit 4 small buckets of balls every week, last year that cost me, because I've got a range pass, that cost me $193. Now that cost would be about $400. And I'm not a range rat. I'm not one of those guys that goes out every day and hits buckets and buckets and buckets and buckets of balls. So I think for the reason of holding annuals, generating prepaid revenue, which any business would consider a good thing, and not doubling or more the price of the annual range pass, I think we should reinstate it in some form similar to what we had last year. And if we're concerned about people abusing it and getting 12 tokens and giving half a dozen of them away, then let's put a limit on how many tokens you can get per day. You know, if you want to limit, say one person can only get hit, 4 tokens a day, 3 tokens a day, some reasonable amount so they actually can hit balls. But that would discourage, I think, the very small minority that might be abusing this privilege. So I would encourage the committee to encourage the board to relook at this program and probably keep the annual punch cards for people that want to buy punch cards, but for the people that want to have an annual pass, I would encourage the board to reinstate the program like it was last year. It'd be nice if we could hold the pricing and limit the amount of tokens that you give to any one player. Say you can only take 4 tokens instead of a dozen tokens, which was the horror stories we were hearing. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you. And John or Sean, you could tell me, is there, the opening of the range would be based upon what?
Primarily the county's directive.
Okay, so we're either looking at 2 more weeks minimum or a full month more of closure, I would guess. So I'm looking at when the next board meeting is on the 13th. I guess we could possibly as a committee discuss this one issue as we did last week and come up with a recommendation to the board for that, or we can wait and have our meeting on the 26th that we normally do, and it would come before the board in June, which certainly the range should be open by then, but we don't know. So I don't know.
We can address that with the county. Right now, they're in their guidance. The reason the driving range is closed because they don't want people touching balls or entering facilities. If we explain to them how we're doing this and we're not going to have people touching the same balls or going into the pro shop, we might get them to change their mind on that one. So if that's something you guys want to do, we could put another letter together and push it on up to the county.
Yeah. See,
okay, and I just see a note from
Let me speak to this.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Let me just speak to this a little bit because, I mean, if the county has to determine that hitting a range ball is a essential activity, okay, they've determined that walking a golf course or getting out there and playing golf is an essential exercise activity. Just because it's related to golf, and it certainly is, practicing is related, but just because it's related to golf doesn't necessarily make that an essential activity. And the conservative side of that is, if my range guy gets sick with coronavirus and decides that he wants to be litigious, he could sue the association and say that hitting range balls was not an essential activity under the governor's stay-at-home orders, and so he should not have been at work. It's exactly what's happening to Walmart right now, and we have to be careful in that regard. So it'd probably be more than just the county saying, as long as you're not touching each other. It's probably going to have to be, let's talk to our attorney and make sure our attorney's comfortable with that too. And,
okay.
And unfortunately, sometimes the attorneys do just kind of run things at this level.
It appears as though Alta Sierra, Dark Horse, Auburn Valley, and amongst many others, their ranges are open right now. And I'm wondering, I'm not specifically an expert on range balls, I should be using them more often, as Joe Slane pointed out with my handicap. But doesn't a guy drives a tractor, a machine picks up the balls, then they're dumped into a bin to wash them or separate them. And so there's really limited handling. Not that, you know, I don't know. Well, this is something we need to discuss offline, I guess.
One of the courses say they're disinfecting their range balls. I don't know how they're doing that, but, you know, and whether that's even necessary, I don't know. But it's a little complicated, but certainly we'd like to see that range open.
Yeah, and Denise Mascari is telling me that they're laying out in the sun and therefore they're disinfected with UV rays. You know?
Yep.
Okay.
I think you may want to think about the golf cart thing in a somewhat similar light. I understand the revenue generation thing that guy said. I was a little surprised. He doesn't seem to be terribly familiar with the verbiage that was in what they sent out, because they're saying no rental carts. But if we're gonna, then he seemed to be a little bit softer on it, like your same family. The thing was more stringent than that. But if there's a little bit of leeway there, we may at least want to understand whether we would allow, if we say we're not going to put ourselves at risk having an employee, for instance, sue or whatever, do we entertain the thought of, hey, if you want to borrow somebody's cart, that's your business. You know, we don't normally condone that, but that way we're not at all on the hook. Something to think about. I only say that because not everybody who is a member here has a golf cart. And so in a sense, you could say it helps to facilitate them getting that exercise in a sense. This course is not for the faint of heart if you want to try and walk. It's one of the toughest ones that I've ever run across. So I would just encourage a little bit of thinking a little harder on the golf cart idea, whether it be rentals or just saying, yeah, you know what, if you have some friend that, you know, you're going to borrow it from, we don't want to encourage, you know, people that are not, you know, meeting each other or, you know, same household, but something to think about, because otherwise you've got some people that are kind of stuck right now. Probably not a lot, but I know at least a few that, hey, I don't have a cart and I can't walk that course, so I'm still kind of you know, at an impasse here. So
Yeah.
just something to think about.
Yeah. Last before we close, as an example, I had a friend who is a member but lives in Dark Horse area, and I sanitized my cart, he drove my cart, and I walked with my clubs, and I walked the entire course. I had a push cart. It worked out well, and I felt younger after I was done, that's for sure. But, so yeah, that's a possibility. Yeah, Joe. Okay. All right. Well, I see we have some questions. There's 7 questions that I see, and I don't know, Steve Compolt, can you control that and bring one up at a time, or how are we doing that? He went away.
I was just muted. So we can just read them off. You want to read them off? You want me to read them off? I'll read them off.
You can read them.
So anonymous attendee states, I noticed that the fairways, tee boxes and greens are looking great. Fantastic. But what about the detail work? I noticed a lot of weeds and tall grass throughout. Probably for Bart. Ron?
Yeah, that's correct. You know, it's aerification, and we're getting to the detail work. We have sprayed 14 holes around all the tree wells, and we are getting to the detail work now. That's a good point. We'll get to it. I have submitted a request to Sean, and I also sent a copy to Rick on a couple of pieces of equipment that would be relatively cheap, that would save us a huge amount of labor, and we could get to more detail work. So we're pushing forward on that. Thank you for the observation.
Great.
Thank you.
Next question. Are there any plans to move the yardage marker on tee box number 7? And is the yardage correct on the current rock?
You mean the monument?
Monument, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that.
I believe the monument is correct. So I don't think there's any need to move it. My observation on that also would be, I cannot imagine a foursome that does not have either a watch, a laser, or something in that foursome that would not be able to read an exact yardage on a par 4, or I'm sorry, a par 3. But we will laser it again tomorrow, but I believe the yardages are correct.
Yeah, I think the monument was in a more optimum space before we redid the tee box. And I think that's what people are commenting on. It's like when you're sitting on the tee box, you can't see it. You drive up, you drive past it, and a lot of people don't notice it.
Did we redo it after we redid the hole? I think that's, I mean, I never pay attention to that thing, but we redid that hole and it's not the same yardage as it was. I don't recall that monument ever being replaced, so I wouldn't be shocked.
Well, I think they're talking about the monument. We moved it to the back of the tee,
right?
Only because we thought that that was a much better place for it. If we moved it to the tee, right, but we can't move it to the right because that's not our property. So we had it to the left, and we moved it back in that spot. I mean, if you can't see it coming through, I don't know what to tell you.
All I was saying though, Ron, go laser it. To your point, I don't know how many people pay attention to it, but that monument, to my knowledge, has not been replaced yet. We redid the hole. I'd find it hard to believe that the yardages are still accurate.
The yardages are not accurate.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought.
Okay, so what do you want me to do? Do you want me to take it out?
No.
I think that's on. That's not your call to go get a replacement, but that's essentially what would need to be done, right?
Well, I would say the first step is for Ron to go out and laser it and figure out exactly what are the distances that we're dealing with. The Women's Golf Club considered at one point in time, we thought that the measurements were wrong, and I can't remember whether it was just that one or we were looking at one or two others. And we found out that a monument is about $750, and that was probably 2 years ago. So that's what we're dealing with. And we decided that it wasn't that important and we would put our money elsewhere. So that's when we decided to put our money toward renovating the bathrooms and enhancing the renovations.
Okay, that's good enough for now on that.
I'll go in the minutes. Okay, next question. There are some carts that have white stickers that should never be on a course, like a 6-person, muddy snow tires. How's that going to be marshaled?
Well, okay, so normally, as I mentioned earlier, if it's a white sticker, that's a street sticker. And during the COVID protocols, we're going to allow the white sticker on the course, but that individual cart owner must pay an additional $13 per play. As far as a cart that is not a golf cart per se, if it has large oversized tires and things like that, I think the pro shop should disallow it. But we haven't had any conversation about that.
Well, my conversation early on was street carts should be golf path only, but I'm not sure what they're actually doing.
Yes. Okay. And yes, as we mentioned earlier, Denise, there will be marshals from the pro shop. They've been trying to run currently 6 to 8 times a day. They're going to increase that to 10 to 12 times a day. So there will be somebody out there monitoring the situation. And I would call on everybody that is actively playing golf as a member that you should, make a note, take down the cart number. If you know the people, if you can take a picture of a problem and bring it in or send it to the pro shop, that's the way we're going to be able to handle these things.
So Ron, I think part of the confusion is there's no defined rule that says you cannot take those on the grass. They have to stay on the cart path. if you're going to use them at golf, or you can't use them at all on the golf course.
The
The
non-regulation.
big knobby tire ones that
Yeah.
everybody's concerned about.
I agree with that because it certainly damages the course. But I don't know that we have a written rule at this point regarding that. The marshals should enforce it, and we'll make a point of
Yeah,
talking.
so the
with
pro shop
that.
needs to set a rule and enforce it.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Next question. Andy Williams is asking, when will we get into the 21st century and have a way to book and pay for golf online?
Oh, this is the guy to talk to right here. Hello. Go ahead. Share what's happening.
Well, worked with Sean and Pat to figure out a date we can review what's been prototyped. Pat and I have spent a lot of time in setting this up. Some of the men's club board has been testing it. Jeanette and Lauren, I think you've tested it. Steve, you've tested it. So we've gotten a lot of feedback. I think it's more of a question of finding the time to get Sean acclimated and see how it fits into the overall plan.
Comment, Sean?
I'd like to take a look at that. I guess my concern right now is it's a bigger problem than just what it appears. Just get in online and put in your tee times in there. The system we use is Abacus, so all of our tee times go through Abacus. Abacus is also our point of sales. So when somebody goes in or makes a tee time, they come in, they pay for it, it's charged against that tee time, it goes into the system, and then it goes into our financial system. If we have a completely separate tee section, online tee reservation system, and it's not tied to our Abacus, we're just creating work for our pro shop people as they've got to read this tee sheet and then they got to go and fat finger it into our own system. I think the solution is, as we look as an association on a new HOA management software, we either find a system out there that works with our system, whichever one it is we choose, or we find a HOA management system that has it included. But I'm not sure right now that the online tee that we may be building is going to make anything easier except for the members, but it's going to make more work for the pro shop people. So we really need to kind of take a look at that and see how we can get these to work together.
Okay.
So TBD.
Sean,
Yes.
while we're talking about though, and Steve, you know about this compost. Do we have some source of accurate tee time data? Because what Steve Compolt has shared is not. And so I don't know if that's, Steve, where it came from, if it's not an Abacus, but when we talk about tee time availability and where that idea came from and measures of success, you can't use the data I've seen so far to that end at all. So are you aware, does it have much more accurate and detailed information than what Steve Compolt has shared? Or Steve, if Sean's not aware, we can table it. I know.
Yeah, I think this is part of the bigger conversation that when Sean and I review what we've created with the reports in the current system. That's something we want to get your feedback on, Sean, and just that's what we're talking about here, and Joe's bringing up. So there's kind of tee time tracking, and then payments and that type of thing is like a whole separate thing. And so regardless of the system, do we have accurate information on how many tee times are getting used, who's using them, and that type of thing? And the current reports we've been able to get out of the current system with the assistance of Pat and Ryan and the others in the pro shop is that the data is not very good in the current system.
Yeah, it's really only as good as the data that the pro shop and are putting in it.
And there's
Abacus
limitations.
But it's not just a great tool to manipulate it and look at it, review it. Abacus, as everybody's probably heard over the years, is just something we want to get away from, but we just don't have a better solution right now. And Abacus is working, so we're stuck with what we have for now.
Yeah.
And have we looked at Golf Genius? We use that already for this purpose, either Sean or Steve?
Well, it's the same problem that Sean's pointing out. Whatever the system is, how does it integrate with the overall system?
Right. Okay. Well, a work in progress then. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Next question.
I think this is pertaining to buckets per golfer per month, having a card system like Hagen Oaks, load the card per month, so that's the question.
Okay, well, that's a conversation that we're having right now.
Yeah.
So
I think we already addressed that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it'll be on our agenda for next month.
How can you prove that someone got coronavirus from a golf ball? I think you have the dimples on your cheeks, right? Is that how you did it?
Yeah, and you know what? Truly, talking about legalese, the law, you don't have to prove it.
No.
You claim it, and it's for the accused to prove it didn't happen. So it's more likely a settlement. It sounds like to me. That's the problem. Next question.
Next question is about water fountains. Now during COVID,
carry your own water.
Yeah, carry your own water. But the point is that before we close down, I think there's at least 3 water fountains that are not working.
Oh.
I know of at least 3 myself, and there's maybe 5 on the course.
Is that Public Works, Sean and John, that looks into that?
Yeah, it'd be Public Works. I know they shut them down in the winter time, don't they?
Yes.
Maybe they didn't get them all turned back on or something. I don't know. But
yeah, so it's something that needs to be looked at.
So they'll be looked at prior to full opening. Okay, next question.
In the meantime, beverage cart. Doing a plug for Sean there.
Yeah, spend some money tomorrow so that we can keep a beverage cart going. I've always wanted to have one. Not my own personal one.
If you guys get enough, maybe we can bring back 2 employees to start working.
There you go.
All right.
So there was some more comments about the monument. I think we already covered that. There's a comment about the beverage cart. Sounds like a great idea. And I think people would, is there a window of time that we're going to have the beverage cart? Is it, and is it just through Sunday and then reevaluate? Will they have sandwiches as well?
We were waiting for somebody to ask for food, but what we're starting with is a lot of beer that's been moved down from the sports lounge. She's going to start tomorrow at 10 a.m. on the course. She's going to meet up with Pat and get a quick run around the golf course and kind of some golf etiquette because she hasn't done this before. And then I believe she's going to go until 3 or 4 tomorrow. And if it goes well and it's working, we'll try to keep it up.
Right.
Sean, I would just advise you might want to do something longer. I think, John's brought it up before, and I've seen it with different things we've done here, that if things become hit and miss, people don't bank on it. But if you were to say, hey, this is going to be a trial for a week or something, then people don't come out, on Thursday and find out, there's no cart today. I guess that idea got bagged, or I'm not going to plan on it for Friday. So just a thought that you might want to, just say, hey, we're going to do it for whatever you might decide, a week or something, and then reevaluate, just so people can get used to the idea, hear about it, versus the guy who played Wednesday, was out there Thursday, it wasn't, and I don't know what's coming up.
Is this a food and beverage employee?
Good thought. It is. It's right now we've got Nicole from the Sports Lounge Bar. She's agreed to do it. So as soon as I get out of here, I'll talk to food and beverage and see if we can just make this happen through the weekend.
Excellent. Okay, Steve, anything else? Got 3 more.
Yeah. So can we put a GPS tracker on the beverage cart like Uber so we know when it's coming?
You mean you can't smell it?
I'm glad people are lightening up a little bit. That's good. Okay, how about another question?
What about the tee box on number 8 that was being constructed? It's a weed patch. Is this going to be completed?
The weeds were taken, removed as far as I know, or at least trimmed, and we're not going to use it, assuming that the bids come in and the board accepts the bid, that dirt will be moved down to where the current tee boxes are, and that'll be filled in, and there'll be renewed tee boxes where they
stay tuned. Stay tuned for further updates. Yeah. I think we got a couple more, and then, so how late are the marshals going to check the course? Even before the shutdown? Any
As
people
long
on
as
the
whoever's
course?
asking, as long as whoever's asking that question is on the course.
Well, perfect timing. Pat just joined us, so he can answer that. He's been wanting to speak up, but he couldn't get his
Hey,
phone to
Pat.
unmute.
Yes. So I have a cashier, I have myself, and I have a marshal on, in the morning and the afternoons now. So we're gonna go full boat with an individual marshal besides the person that's working in the shop. So we're gonna have people, basically from 9:30 all the way through to probably 6:30, 7 o'clock, depending on what the last tea time is.
Excellent.
Yeah.
We're gonna have tea times probably till 5:30, so they can play 9 holes.
Great.
We're putting
Okay.
the signs out for the entrances when you get onto the course from the street. We're gonna have signs on every hole about the COVID-19 and how to prepare for it as golfers. We have little touch foam reminders on each pin, in the midsections of each pin, that are gonna say no touch, to remind the guys not to touch the pins. So we've been getting pretty prepared.
We can bring our own beverages, right? I think
Yeah.
it's encouraged, right?
The main thing with the person that they're going to use as the drink cart person is something, it's basically to help out the employee too, to have a person be able to come back to work.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and by the way, Pat, you weren't here, but we would encourage the marshals to dissuade any golf cart that has oversized wheels or anything from driving on the golf course. That if they paid their $13 with the white sticker, that they certainly can ride on the cart path while playing golf, but that they should not drive that vehicle on the fairways. Can we have that happen?
Well, I doubt that we would approve a cart that even would fit that description with those big tires. I've seen a few, and it just would cause too much damage. I mean, if
Yeah.
that's all they have, I don't know if I'd want to take a chance that they're going to stay on the cart path.
Okay. So,
But
yeah.
if they make $13, they could walk.
But aren't white stickered carts allowed outside golf hours?
Yes.
On the cart path, apparently on the cart path, because it would be
So you'd want to
during
be
the neat.
you'd want to be careful about that, because it still would apply, is what I'm thinking, even after, I don't know if this is just going on while people are driving during the middle of the day, but it is something that could be more than just this temporary situation.
But Pat's right, that would be limited to the path.
Should be, yeah.
Okay, next question.
The cart path paint to mark the yardage.
We already took care of that.
Already talked
Yeah.
about that.
So that when we took care of, and there's a lot of non-golfers that are on the course before sunset, and so that's just another concern about marshaling. We did have somebody raise their hand. Dave, are you still on? I think Dave. Does anybody want to raise their hand and ask a question, or I think we've gotten through them all?
I do have an additional one though, and I don't know if this is more for the board tomorrow, but myself included, I don't understand the logic of this annual renewal if you want to do the Easy Pay program. And so I don't know if, John, you want to try and explain it, but I did ask, and it sounds as though you're paying for whatever 5 months of this year ahead of time to get started. It seems to defeat the purpose of not having a lump sum. So you want to
So you have a lump sum if you don't start at the beginning of the year with your payment plan. If you start May 1, you're going to make the first 5 months payment up front. But if you don't use Easy Pay Joe, you're going to write us a check for 12 months on May 1. So take your pick, I guess. It has more to do with accounting and trying to fit this into the golf season into a financial season, through the annual year, than it does if we would have started fresh. I mean, if we could start the golf season on January 1st, it'd be a no-brainer, but we'd have to change all of the other annual fees that we have that start at all different dates for their own reason. So,
But why couldn't you just say you're starting now? We get it. Here's, you pay this first month and go. Because it's not just golf. I'm thinking about if you have a boat slip thing and you tell somebody you want to start the Easy Pay program, it comes available in October, you're damn near paying for a year anyway. I don't understand why we have to hit them hard. For me, I'll probably pay the annual anyway, but you hear what I'm saying? It's very easy for this to turn into a big lump sum payment for somebody to get started on supposedly easy plan.
well, again, you're either going to write us a check. If you want to get an annual, you're either going to write us a check for 12 months or you're going to write us a check for 5 months and then pay the remainder over the remaining 7 months.
And then once you've made if you bit the bullet and did the 5 month, and then you're making those payments, then the next year you're just continuing to make payments. There's no more lump sum, correct?
Right. You're just right into the system, and it goes away theoretically.
Right.
And everybody else is paying us 12 months every year, and
Yeah.
so half the year they're better off than you because they've only fretted the last couple months of the year, but the first half of the year you're a lot better off with Easy Pay. So it's not perfect.
So to be clear though, if you were to back pay the 5 months, call it, does the next year mean that those 5 months you've essentially prepaid and you don't
No,
have to
you
pay?
just will have set the 2021 rate, and your Easy Pay payment, if you want to start it January 1 and spread it out over 12 months, you can do that. Or you can pay us 12 months all at once on May 1st. And part of the reason that I think that the community, and this existed long before me, has prepaid those things is because if you took monthly payments and you weren't paying in advance, then you have to have a real-time recognition of whether you're current or not. Somebody could, quit paying their golf fees and keep playing golf, or quit at the end of summer, quit paying, and during the high season play all their golf. So you've made them pay for a year at a time in the past. I assume that's why you guys have done that. Pay it all up front without any monthly payments. But with all these different start dates and end dates for all these different amenities, that's the best accounting could come up with right now.
John, have a lot of people taken advantage of this Easy Pay 12-month system?
There has been some. I can't tell you the number. It's a start. I think once we get through this renewal, because most of these haven't renewed yet, so once we get through the renewal, then people will decide, okay, do I write them a check for $1,476, or do I write them a check for $700, $600, and then pay monthly the balance?
I think if you're finding that not many people are choosing to do this, that the point that, the confusion that exists about it is causing lack of participation, just to let you know.
Well, and that's fine. And so Sean can deal with the next problem. But I think when you come in and we say, okay, write us a check for $1,476, or write us a check for $620 or whatever that is, you take your pick. I think you'll find some people will write the $620 check. So let's see. Let's get through these renewals and see where we're at.
So just to clarify, the renewals start when, and it's for 11 months or 12 months? And why would
it's your season is May 1st through April 30th. We're just allowing you, because we don't want you coming in and paying right now, and a lot of people have financial issues right now, we've extended the payment until June 1st now. So you've got till June 1st. You can keep playing golf. If you have an annual, or if you've got any annual that expires right now, you can keep using that through June 1st before you have to pay.
So,
Okay.
but if I don't want to belabor it, but I don't think we're close to having a clear understanding. But if I was to come in and pay for, as you call it, I'll just say $700, John. If I pay $700 and then start paying monthly, what I've essentially paid for, if I'm understanding you correctly, is I've paid twice because I've already was covered for these previous, call it 5-6 months. I paid for that, but I'm paying you at the end of the day, I'm paying $1,400 for the year 2020 when I could pay you $1,400 and be 6 months into year 2021. Am I not understanding that right?
No, you're understanding it, Joe, but take your pick. Do you want to write us a check for $1,476, or do you want to write us a check for $700 plus the remaining 7 months divided by, at times 123 or whatever? So
I'm just paying,
take your
I'm
pick.
paying double for the first part of the year. That's the thing.
Well, you can think of it that way, but right now you're paying for 12 months to go out and play one round of golf. The beginning of the season, you're giving us a check for $1,476, and then the rest of it's free. I guess you could think of it that way. Think of it however you want and decide which way you want to go. And you don't have to do it. It's an option.
Yeah, I'm not over a barrel, but I don't think it makes financial sense for people, even
That's
if you could afford it. Why would you'd end up sitting at January 1 next year saying, I paid $1,400 and I got 6 months of benefit, versus I could have paid the $1,400 and carried myself into May of the following year. Right?
You pay the same amount in the end.
Okay,
the last few months, you're right. You would have. There's a point there you'll cross around the 1st of January where you would have paid less if you paid it up front. So.
Okay, let's move on, Joe. You'll work it out. Let's see if we have any other questions and we get this thing rolled into cocktail time.
So there is a comment. Somebody said, I did the easy pay and started in January and I liked it.
Yay. Okay.
Hey,
Cool. Next.
Some people are on a budget. This makes it easier, fits within their monthly. Okay, another positive thing.
Okay.
Are we going to change the amount this year due to the COVID closure? We aren't happy with the white stickers getting to pay $13, but we have to pay $350 for a blue sticker. So they're wondering, are the blue stickers going to get a rebate?
Yeah, we already talked about that. Where have they been? Come on. What else?
Right. Yeah. Okay, we've talked about all these things.
Wait a minute. That brings up a really good point. The idea of the $13 with a white sticker, that's only during the special times related to
right. Absolutely, until we can open the cart barn again.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
2 more questions.
So I think this is just redundant. I think it was clarified. So I think that's it, and nobody's been raising their hands. So I think we're done with the Q&A.
Okay, and the only other thing that was brought up, and it seems she has this thing about it, she brings it up all the time, your favorite golfer, Denise Mascari, about dress code. And, we're a professional, we're not professional, but this is an NCGA community, correct? And we all try to dress appropriately for golf, and I don't know that the pro shop has a specific dress code, but we can, as a committee, talk about it. Maybe Denise and others can submit their recommendations. I mean, Tiger Woods wears a collarless shirt. I think I should be able to too.
We have a dress code. I think the question is, are we adhering to it or not?
Yeah.
No,
I don't know why it would.
A year or so ago, they gave the golf shop, myself, authority to decide if it was proper or not in the golf, because there were so many different things that are coming out by the Nike and the different companies. And so we weren't going to measure with a ruler how short the shorts were. We were just going to see if they were appropriate, mid-thigh or whatever, but we weren't going to get into that. It was going to be up to me to decide if it's appropriate. As far as shirts go, we always tried to keep with, if you don't have sleeves, you have a collar. If you don't have a collar, you have sleeves. That was the type of shirt for golf. And then we worked on the shorts issue. But anytime I get a phone call and something comes up, I always go out and, well, we're always trying to stay on top of it in the shops. If a person doesn't come in, that's where they get away with it sometimes, and we'll end up going after them and having them change. So it's just something that we deal with every day, and we don't have specifics where we have to measure the short.
Okay.
Can we put clothing on the beverage cart just in case somebody needs it?
All right, I would love to hear a motion. This went very well, I think. Thank you all for participating. We made it before 4:45. I had it out to 5 if we had to do it. Everybody got a chance to talk. We covered everything on the agenda. I'd like, unless anybody else has anything to say, let's close this down by issuing a motion and a second. A motion.
We close the meeting.
And a second.
Second that.
Made and seconded. All right. Nobody is objecting. We're done. Close down. Bye-bye.
Fix your glasses, Ron. I don't want to be looking at those crooked things again. I make a motion, you rectify your glasses. There.
I don't wear them all the time. There you go.
Oh, put them back on. Sorry.
No,
I have.
all right.
Bye, everybody.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
See you guys on the course.
Yeah.